Welcome back, I am Dr. Ruckus, and today, having just finished 7 straight hours of March of the Machine Early Access, we're making one last video. Smash or pass? Which cards and decks emerged good from Early Access and which ones did not? If you like this kind of content, drop a like, drop a subscribe, drop a comment, all that jazz. Here we go, starting with White Angels. Errant and Gaiata, a 3-mana 2/3 flash flyer. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast spells with flash or flying from the top of your library. Very sweet. Reminds me of Augur of Autumn, except that you cannot play lands off the top, but doesn't have the Coven drawback. And the things that have flying are all the things you want to be casting anyway, right? All of your angels, and the things that have flash include none other than the Wandering Emperor, which is actually really nice, because one of the issues with the Augur of Autumn is that your instant and sorcery removal spells sit on top of the deck and they clog your ability to plow through, whereas with Errant and Gaiata, when the Emperor is sitting on top, you can just flash her straight off the deck, which is pretty sweet. Some non-angels I think you should play in this deck is probably Skrelv on 1, which should also be in every other white aggressive creature deck. It's just a 4-of all the time, every time. It's that good. And also the Guardian of New Benalia. I found the ability, even though it's not an angel, the ability to manipulate the top of the deck and scry things to the top or the bottom played really well with Gaiata, so you can keep all of your angel flyers and flashers on top where they can be played. Pretty sweet. Smash. Next up, Guardian of Girapur, a 3-mana 3/3 angel flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you get to blink something. That's sweet. There are probably a lot of fun things to do, but one thing you can do in the angel deck is if you play the Steel Seraph, you attack, do whatever you're going to do, then after combat, you deploy the Guardian of Girapur, blink the Steel Seraph, it comes back in as its 6-mana 5/4 equivalent, which is quite nice. A lot of opponents do not like that play pattern, and it's really easy to pull off, as opposed to like a teleportation circle. Turn 4 enchantment does nothing. This is a 3-mana 3/3 body, so it's pretty good. Also note, you can probably slot this into pretty much any white control deck you're running, which has like the 2-mana 1/1 dog that draws you a card, or the 2-mana 1/1 farmer that fetches you a plane. Like, this is just a super easy blink card, and I'm sure people have a lot of fun with it. So smash again. Archangel Elspeth. 4 mana, 4 loyalty, +1, make a 1/1. It feels like a pass to me. I just like, this just doesn't do enough. Like what? Why? I don't know. I just feel like it's just not enough. It is nice that the plus ability is what kind of defends itself. Sometimes the minus ability is what does that. So, you know, Sorin, you minus, they pick off the creature. It's easier to kill Sorin. All right, at least you plus up to 5. But still, I just think a 1/1 is just not enough payoff for this. -2 doesn't impress me that much. You put it on something, they kill the target, then they attack down Elspeth. -6 is sweet. If you get that far, you can, you know, get back all your 1, 2s, and 3s from the graveyard. That could be okay, but you're just sitting there doing a whole lot of nothing for a while. It's a pass on Elspeth. Drana and Limvala. 4 mana 3/4, legendary creature, vampire, angel, flying vigilance. Great stat line. Text is also good. Basically, it shuts down your opponent's Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, and you get to steal that ability and do it yourself. All this sounds amazing, and yet I still think it's a pass. There are just too many other competitive slots in white and black for the 4-drop, including the Emperor, as we already talked about. The Flash plays really well with Errant and Gaiata, and also things like Sheldred and other angels. So this card's great. It's just, I don't think it's better than anything else you could be playing in this slot. So sadly, a pass on the Vampire Angel. And we move on to red. I don't know why Wizards printed more red cards. They should have just left it as is. Mono red was already highly played and very annoying, but they didn't. They printed more cards. Blood Feather Phoenix, 2-mana 2/2 flyer, cannot block. Whenever an instant or sorcery you control deals damage to an opponent or battle, you may pay 1 red. If you do, return it to the battlefield with haste. Not bad. I don't think it will be mainstream. I think it competes in the same slot as Feldon, which is a 2-mana 2/2 haste. That with Kumano is a 2-mana 3/3 haste. That when it's dealt damage, you get this extra card draw effect. It's like pretty annoying to deal with. And by contrast, the Phoenix, while it does have flying, it doesn't have haste, which is a big deal. So even though this thing can come back from the graveyard, and it's probably pretty easy to get back in mono red with all the burn, I'm not sure it's going to be better than Feldon. Maybe it's a 1-of for now. If Wizards printed a bunch of 2-mana 3/3s like the green pack leader that used to exist, maybe Feldon would be worse and the flyer would be better, but for now, you're probably going to stick with Feldon. I wouldn't waste your wild cards here unless you really want 1-of in there. So this is a pass, sadly. Kenra Spellspear, obviously a smash. It is a Jackal Warrior, which is just straight up badass, craft 4, play 4. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Invasion of Regatha. This is interesting. Well, let's talk about Stoke the Flames first. So this is terrible because this just made mono red better, and we didn't really need to make mono red any better. I felt like it was just doing fine by itself. Normally a 4-mana instant, deal 4 damage to any target, including face, but you can also convoke, make it cheaper. said it's only like 2 or 3 mana to cast. And so as soon as your mono red creatures finally get brickwalled by the Sheldred or whatever, you can use them to convoke and super cheap Stoke the Flames. Also just gives one more way for mono red to top deck the win, right? Previously you worried about Lightning Strike if you were at 3 life. If you're at 2 life, you worry about Play with Fire. If you're at 1 life, you worry about Kumano. And now if you're at 4 life, you're still not safe. They can still just top deck the win. So not very happy with this card, but it is a nice upgrade to mono red. Probably running 2 to 3 of these, maybe 4. It depends how you build the deck. Now back to Invasion of Urgatha. I think this one's interesting because right now we're sitting at a little bit of a mix between burn and, creature aggro. Creature aggro being, slam, Torbrand and Embercleave, and burn being, play with fire to the face. This is a 3 mana uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, you deal 4 damage to target battle or opponent and 1 damage up to 1 target creature. So 3 mana 4 to the face is actually quite a lot of burn. So I'll be interested if this makes any competitive red decks, including maybe with the Kessig Flamebreather. This card is not as good at attacking, but for that reason, it's actually free to convoke a lot of the time. So I could see a Flame Breather based deck that pings off the Invasion to Urgatha and Stoke the Flames and just really focus on, damage to the face as opposed to creature based things like the Feldon. We'll see. I don't know. All right, so that's it for the red aggro decks. Then we have the red non-aggro stuff. So first off, we have Volcanic Spite, a 2-mana instant, deal 3 damage to target creature, planeswalker, or battle. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. If you do, draw a card. This card's fantastic. It's a reprint, basically. They had an nearly identical version back in Ikoria. 2 mana, 3 damage something, probably not battle, because battles didn't exist. Put a card from your hand on the bottom, draw a card. And that was sweet. It was like some flaming eye thing, and it was good, and it was played, and this is the same thing. This is premium removal right here. It is common, and you get to take the worst or least relevant card from your hand, put it on the bottom, draw a fresh card. This card is great, and should be a staple in any red-based control deck. And here he's Warcrafting, pretty interesting. Its equivalent is the 3 mana instant Rending Flame, deal 5 damage to any targets or target creature, whatever it is, and basically it's just an answer to Sheldred. This is similar, except it is a sorcery, which is the downside, but the upside I think is worth it. 5 damage to creature, planeswalker, or battle, but then excess damage, you look through that much of the top of your deck, and you get to play one of those cards. Now it's tough because since you've just expended 3 mana, you probably don't have that much mana left over, so you're not going to cast anything expensive off this unless it's super late game. But if the floor of this card is you look at the top couple cards, you get a land, and you hit your land for turn, you effectively drew a card and played a land, like that's good. That's solid upside. So I'm pretty excited about this card. It doesn't feel amazing when you do it because the expectation is that you get to look through a bunch of cards and play something really cool. And the reality is you get to play something really cheap, but still it's a little bit of extra value tacked onto this, and I'm excited to try it out more. Smash, and here he's Warcrafting. Ortheon, Hero of Lava Brink. This guy looks badass. I didn't play it. I'm sure you can make some fun Ratadrabic combo deck. You copy the Drabic, it makes a copy, the copy dies. I don't know, something like that. We're gonna go Smash. He looks pretty badass. I'll take that. Chandra, Hope's Beacon, 6 mana, 5 loyalty planeswalker. Oh boy, I played against this once, and it was devastating. It was awesome. So basically, like turn 5, invoke to spare me. I had a wide board of creatures. Whatever. I lost a creature. Fine. Next turn, they Chandra. They +2 to make 2 black mana, and they cast something like Go for the Throat. It gets copied by Chandra, so then they picked off 2 of my creatures, and Chandra's sitting at 7 loyalty. And then next turn, they +1, exile the top 5 cards of their library, hit the next Invoke Despair, cast Invoke Despair. It gets copied off the Chandra. They just double Invoke Despaired me, and yeah, it was brutal, but absolutely awesome. I will be trying this out. I don't know if it's going to be super meta, but that was an insane combination. And yeah, Super Smash, Chandra, Smash. Then we move on to green, which is the most exciting thing because green has been terrible for a long time, and we got a ton of straight up good cards. Certainly upgrades. Number 1, Deeproot Wayfinder, probably the worst of the bunch. 2 mana, 2/3. When it deals combat damage to a player or battle, surveil 1. Then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Okay. So you got a little ramp in there, a little surveil, manipulate the top of the deck. Like, that's all upside. If it was a 3/2, I'd be significantly more excited about it. That does hit quite a bit harder. And so the only downside, it is a 2 mana 2/3, which just hits a little bit less hard, but this is better than anything else we have in green right now. So I will take it, upgrade, smash the Deeproot Wayfinder. Streetwise Negotiator, 2 mana 0/2, has backup 1, so it enters the battlefield. You can give something else or itself a +1 counter plus the abilities below. In this case, if you give it to itself, it is now a 2 mana 1/3, and it assigns damage equal to its toughness, which means it is effectively a 2 mana 3/3, which we don't have in green. So I will take it, smash. Sandstalker Moloch, this card is weird. 3 mana 4/2, uncommon, flash. When it enters the battlefield, if opponent casts a blue or black spell this turn, look at the top 4 cards, reveal a permanent card, put it into your hand. This card's great. 3 mana 4/2 hits pretty hard. Flash means you do this weird thing where you can play around sweepers or play around removal spells, whatever it is. And then if they play blue or black, then you just get that. Dig through the top 4, pick the next permanent, add it to your hand. Like, that is a lot of value to just tack onto this card. And as you see, we have a couple cards like that where it's hard to grind through green when there are cards like this where you just keep looking at the top couple cards of your deck, add something to your hand, play it next turn, repeat. So smash. Sandstalker Moloch is a win. Ren and Relbreaker, 3 mana, 4 loyalty. You play it on turn 3, you +1, you animate your tapped land. It is still tapped. It does not defend land. It does not defend Ren. This is a pass. I don't think this card is very good. Maybe someone will find a use for it. Let me know in the comments. Pelucranos. Wait, hold on. Do we switch? We gotta move. Let's move the, what if I put you over here? Nope, still blocked. What if we put you over here? There we go. Okay, Pelucranos Reborn. 3 mana 4/5. Reach. 3 mana 4/5. That's great. That's fantastic. That's what we needed to green. We need our Old Growth Troll. This probably isn't quite as good as Old Growth Troll because I had the whole get it back from the graveyard thing, which is pretty sweet. But 3 mana 4/5 is just a great body. Reach is actually relevant. It blocks Mono Red's Phoenix Chicks, which tend to be able to peck over to the finish line, which is very annoying. So that's great. And you're probably never going to flip it, but the flip side is badass looking. It's got Reach and Lifelink. It's Worm Coil on the back. Yeah, love it. Absolute smash. Great body in green. Let's go. Tribute to the World Tree. Smash or pass? I think it's a smash. Yeah, you're going to take turn 3 off, and Mono Red's going to hit you, and you're going to be sad. But man, against a lot of decks, even Mono Red, like, you get a turn with this card, and you really start to pop off. And there isn't that much enchantment or removal, right? There's Invoke Despair, there's Besiege. There's some other niche things. It's probably, I think enchantments stick around better than artifacts in general with Brotherhood's End and a Braid. So this thing's probably going to stick around. And then every time you play any of your creatures with 3 power, well, we just went over several of them, you get to draw a card. And if it's smaller than 3, it gets bigger. And if you have 2 of these out at the same time, they actually stack. So the creature comes down, it gets bigger. And if that made it 3 power, then the next trigger happens and you get the draw. So I think it's good. And it's very hard to grind through a mono green deck playing this. If you're just going 1-for-1 with removal, you can't get there. You just can't do it because they just keep playing creatures and they keep drawing cards, and those cards draw other cards like the Moloch, and it's a lot. So smash on the World Tree, I like it. Doomscar Warrior is the winner of all of them. It is the best. It is just a great addition. 4 mana 4/3 doesn't look that impressive. Trample, 4 mana 4/3 trample looks okay, whatever, but backup 1 and this extra ability is what really does it. So backup 1 means you put trample and all the following text on one of your other creatures. So you're going to put all this on your 3-drop, make your 3-drop hit like a 4/4 or whatever it is, and it has trample, and when it deals excess damage, you look at that many cards from the top of your library and put a creature or land into your hand. Very sweet. I mean, this is just really hard for the opponent to ever get through, because if they kill the thing you put backup on, then they don't kill the original Doomscar Warrior, which can then reuse that effect every single turn. And if they kill the Warrior, then you still get the thing you put backup on through the effect. You dig through that many cards. They don't want to block it because it's big and it has trample, but if they don't block it, you get to dig through more cards. You get another Doomscar Warrior or a Moloch to your hand, and you just keep the train going, and you play it, and you draw off the World Tree. So, like, yeah, this card was great. Very happy with it. And just overall, super pleased that they printed some better green cards, because, like I said, green has been awful for quite some time. So then we're going to get on to some niche decks, or just kind of very specific decks. This is one deck I did not play myself, but I saw a lot of people playing. It is a Orzhov Bloated Processor Phyrexian deck. So the Processor is a 3 mana 3/2, sack another Phyrexian, put a +1 counter on it. When it dies, incubate X for X's power. Honestly, I didn't really think much of this card when I saw it, but it's much better than it looks. It basically makes it impossible to go to combat in this kind of deck, because what happens is you play the Crawling Chorus on 1, you get Skrelv on 1, eventually you get Skrelv's Hive at some point, start pumping out tokens, and at some point you realize that you just can never block the Processor, because they'll sack a Chorus, give it a +1. If that's not enough, they'll sack the Resulting Might, give it a +1. You know, they'll sack the Skrelv's Hive tokens, they'll sack the Wedding Announcement tokens. And if you have whatever the original Skrelv is, Skrelv Defector Might, if you got this guy in here as well, and you can't really target it, so this thing actually hits pretty hard, and you can't beat it in combat, so you have to beat it through removal, and if you have Skrelv Defector Might, then it's hard to beat through Hexproof. So, interesting deck. I did not lose to it, but I thought it was cool, and I'll definitely check it out. I imagine the Grafted Butcher is in here too, give Phyrexians +1. I also ran into Elish Norn. Again, I didn't play this myself, but I felt the pressure to remove it immediately, especially in this token-based deck, When I first read the card, I thought, pay 3 mana, sack 3 other creatures. Like, who's really going to have 3 other creatures around? But every time I played against this card, there were creatures around, and it was on the verge of flipping, which I was pretty scared about, because you get to incubate 2 5 times. Then they all get double strike and hit for like and +1/+1. So they hit for 30 damage that turn, and then you destroy everything and return this guy. Like, backside looks pretty nasty. So every time I saw this come out, I was pressured to get rid of it, and it has some more upside via vigilance and, you know, some mono red burn protection. So pretty cool card. Yeah, I'm excited to play it. We'll go smash in terms of coolness. It's okay. It's decent. You don't want to see this guy flip for sure. Progenitor Exarch, I don't really have an opinion on this. I saw some people play it. It never super impressed me. It seemed okay. It's probably passed from the competitive scene, but seems pretty cool. So I don't know. All right, then we get to probably one of my favorite archetypes these days, which is humans or stacks humans, something like that. Basically, it's anything you throw on top of the package that could consist of up to Thalia to tax, Hajara for indestructible, Malira to bring something back from the graveyard, Peacekeeper to tax, Brutal Cathar to take their creature, and I even throw Joda in there because they did a little Joda deck a couple days ago. But yeah, this package is all good, and we got a couple new pieces to it. So first off, we'll talk about Invasion of Gobakhan. Let me move this thing over again. Let's see if this does it. Yeah, Invasion of Gobakhan. I never played this myself. I saw people play it. It was okay. It did not blow my mind. So it enters the battlefield, you look at the opponent's hand, exile a non-card, costs 2 more to cast. All right, so we're in the tax thing, but it doesn't have a creature body, right? Like, basically my argument is just play Thalia instead on 2. Then you have a creature and you tax them for an extra turn. I did see people successfully attack this down, and they got this thing, and they could put +1 counters, and more importantly, they could at instant speed sack it and give creatures they controlled hexproof and indestructible. So it was definitely something to be played around. It's not a bad card. I just don't think it's necessarily better than Thalia in terms of what you can be doing on 2, but I thought it was cool, and it was cool to see battles come to play. So overall, it's probably a pass, but it's in the middle. It's not bad. Inga and Asika. This card I'm very excited to play with. 4 mana, 4/4. Creatures you control have vigilance and tap, add 1 mana of any color. You can only use it to cast a creature spell. Whenever you cast a creature spell, if 3 or more mana from creatures you have spent to cast it, draw a card. This card is sweet. It means all your creatures have vigilance, so you can then attack with everything, and then after combat, tap them all to deploy more stuff. I'm very excited to try this out in some kind of Bant Humans deck. I think it's going to be a smash. Thalia, the Gitrog monster, is definitely a smash. 4 mana, 4/4. It reminds me of Questing Beast. It's just got so much text that I can't even remember what this thing does. 4 mana, 4/4. Human Frog Horror, which is great. First strike, Death Touch. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Okay. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped, which means mono red. Everything enters tapped, which means, you know, any kind of way control looking to hit their sweeper on time. If it's not a basic land, it enters tap and takes you off another turn. This deck is real. The Abzan Taxes deck is probably what I'd call it, is just super obnoxious to deal with. Basically, the curve that is very hard to beat is Skrelv on 1. Then Thalia on 2, tax them out of things. They can't kill Thalia because it has Skrelv hexproof protection. Malira is also an acceptable 2-drop. Then you go Peacekeeper on 3 and take the thing they want to do next. You tax them out of that. And then turn 4, you play Thalia, the Gitrog monster. And then their lands enter tapped. So even if they could somehow fathom a sweeper through the Thalia tax, through the Peacekeeper tax, their land enters tapped. And it's brutal. Like, that curve right there is real. And I think that's great because Abzan doesn't always have a whole lot of amazing thing going on. So I'm very happy with this card. Oh, by the way, it has one more piece of text. When it attacks, sack a creature or land and draw a card. So basically you just sack your extras lands you don't need anymore and just keep drawing into more threats. So yeah, absolute smash. This card's awesome and it's great for Abzan. Knight Errant of Eos. I was very excited about this card. It was very underwhelming. I thought it would be a great toolbox card, but in reality, it has 2 limitations. Number 1, you only get to dig through the top 6 cards of your library. So that's actually pretty narrow. You can completely whiff there and hitting only lands or things that are unapplicable. It's not like it searches your entire deck. And 2, you have to take the entire turn off to convoke, right? All of your creatures have to be, you have to tap them to get the Eos effect, and then that determines what mana value of things you can fetch. But taking the entire turn off by tapping all your creatures just really wasn't worth it. I just didn't think that play pattern felt good. The only exception is I am excited to try this out in the Bant deck because then all your creatures have vigilance, so you can attack with everything first, and then after the fact, could use them to convoke and pay for the Eos and get some value off of that. I think that could be a pretty fun play pattern, but I thought this card would be great, and it wasn't. So mostly a pass on the Knight Errant of Eos. Omnath, Locus of All. Pretty niche, like you have to be running a Legends deck that has support for 4 mana, excluding black. If you want to run 5 mana, that's fine too. It's just easier to try to go for 4. If this thing comes down, it's a 4 mana 4/4 that draws you an extra card and potentially extra mana every single turn. Obviously, that's very good. It's just very hard to cast. So, certainly not busted, but somewhere between smash and pass in the middle. Like, this is a solid card if you can get it down, and very fun to play around with. Okay, moving on. So I guess this is like some control stuff I'm going to talk about here. Number 1 is Elspeth's Smite. I did not play this. I am interested in playing it. I have found that no matter how good my opening hand is with a control deck, let's say it's like mono way control, I could have... It's Path to Exile, the 1 mana thing? Yeah, I think it's Path to Exile. No, that's not. That's the old one. I don't know what it is. Lay Down Arms, Lay Down Arms. I can have an opening hand with Lay Down Arms, Ossify, and Wandering Emperor. And I can look at that and be like, all right, I should be able to address aggro. And I will still lose those games against a good mono red hand if they're on the play. So that's frustrating to me. And I don't like that. And so I'm interested in trying at Elspeth Smites over Lay Down Arms. Because instant speed. It gives us some instant speed interaction in white for cheap. And I know that Lay Down Arms is great late, right? It can basically kill anything and kill Sheldred. If you have enough planes around, that's pretty great. But if Mono Black is running Cut Down on 1 and 4 copies of Go for the Throat, and that's enough for them, maybe we should be considering 4 copies of Elspeth's Smite. I don't know. I'm going to try it out, though, because I don't like losing to Mono Red when I have a perfect opening control hand. Like, that doesn't feel good. So I'm going to think about this card. We'll see what happens. Monastery Mentor, leave in the comments if you think that's a smash or a pass. I'll leave that one up to you. Sunfall, very interesting. Every time, here, let me move the camera again. Every time I was playing against someone and I thought they were going to play Sunfall, it was just a turn too slow. We'd get to turn 4 and I was like, well, do you have Depopulate? Nope, you don't have Depopulate. Okay, well, I'm going to kill you before turn 5, before you get to Sunfall. So, I mean, it's very cool. Exile all creatures is great. Artwork is great. Incubate X is cool. You sweep everything up and you're left over with this artifact. They make a big beatdown. Like, flavor-wise is awesome. Color-wise is awesome. But I think you probably just want to run the fastest removal you can, which is turn 4 Depopulate in most cases. The upside of, Farewell is it gets rid of everything, including enchantments and artifacts and graveyards. And the Eternal Wanderer, is a planeswalker that has all this other upside. So, I don't know. Unless, like... the graveyard exile part is just so critical. I think I'd either run Farewell or Depopulate, but that turn 5 was just a turn slow for a lot of the things that I was doing on my side of the battlefield. Those are my thoughts. I think maybe a pass, which is sad, because this card looks sweet. Invasion of New Phyrexia. I like this card a lot. Let's call it turn 5. You pay X equals 3. You get 6 power and toughness worth of knights on your side of the battlefield with vigilance, and then they can be used to attack down the battle and get to Teferi. I think that's cool. I love it. It seems like a great finisher, and you get a Planeswalker out of the deal, and it's Teferi, so that's a smash. Let's see. All right, then we get to the battle package. So the only card I know for sure is good from this is the Rampaging Raptor. Every time this came down on the opponent's side of the battlefield, I thought, oh shit, like, I need to deal with this. This is actually an issue. It is a 4-mana 4/4 Trample Haste, which is great by itself. Whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls or battle that player protects. So what people were doing is they play out these dinky little battles, and I was like, all right, whatever, I can ignore that. And then they dropped this Rampaging Raptor out of nowhere, 4-mana 4/4 haste. They'd hit me for 4 or 3 or whatever, because I could block a little, but I can't block the trample, and the excess damage would pick off the battle, and then they would flip the battle, and I'd be like, oh shit, wait, like, now I have to deal with this? And they would keep doing that. So this card is really cool. I think it really turns on any battle theme. I saw people playing, Gruul battles with the Raptor, maybe Jund battles with the Raptor. I think it's great. And it caught me off guard, and I like that it has some counterplay to Planeswalkers, and I like that it turns on battles. Overall, I had a lot of fun playing against it, and I'm excited to try it out myself. Invasion of Tarkir, I thought was pretty cool. There aren't that many dragons in the set. Hopefully we get more dragons in the future. But basically 2 mana, deal 2 damage to something, unless you can reveal dragons in your hand, then it does more. But then if you can flip this thing, then it's a flying trample 4/4, and when a dragon you control attacks, deals 2 damage to any target. I had to face this once, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a lot to deal with. Very cool card, very cool art. It's a smash. Invasion of New Capenna, I don't know, it's like... let's see, it's kind of like Rite of Oblivion. You sack a permanent, an artifact, or a creature, you exile something, and then it's got Holy Frazzle Cannon on the back. So for art alone, that's a smash. I don't know about the playability, but it looks kind of cool. Invasion of Asgol, 2 mana opponent sacks creature. Seems okay. It's uncommon, probably a pass, but I don't know if you can like pick off these battles with the Raptor. You get a lot of value out of this stuff. Invasion of Urgamon. I saw a lot of people playing this. This camera again. Invasion of Urgamon. Yeah, enters the battlefield, create a treasure token, draw discard. Like clearly where people were trying to ramp into things, specifically draw discard into reanimating a track, so that type of stuff. I didn't lose to this deck once, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Draw discard, make a treasure ramp. I think it makes perfect sense, and I'll probably try this out. Seems playable. And then lastly, Invasion of Tolvada. I don't think I saw anyone play this. You know, it's a primo reanimator spell. Any target non-battle permanent card you can reanimate. And then if you can attack this thing down and flip it, tokens get +1/+0 and have lifelink. That's okay. At the beginning of your end step, you get a token. Seems okay. I think probably Cruelty of Gix is just better. You know, 3 and 2 black is not that much harder to cast than 3 white and a black. Both those are significantly easier to cast than Invoke Justice, which is 1 and a white. And Gix is just more flexible. So I don't know. I mean, you can return any non-battle permanent. So that's like the upside of this. But for now, I'm leaning more towards pass just because the other reanimation stuff's already pretty good. And I don't think the backside of this is amazing. And so you'd have to really have a good non-creature permanent that's better than Cruelty of Gix to get back for this to be better. So we're going for pass. I'm sure someone will break this, but I don't know what that is. And then, yeah, these last cards are basically ones that I don't know a whole lot about. I either didn't play them or I saw them a little bit, don't have super strong opinions. It's kind of an interesting hexproof on yourself till end of turn. I think I saw CGB playing this once, 2-mana 2/2. You know, it could be in like a Selesnya counters deck. Draw a card, seems okay, but probably doesn't upgrade the real soldiers deck. Blue, almost nothing. Super playable, which is interesting. Omen Hawker, I think this is cool. You play it on 1, you play Bankbuster on 2. You tap this thing, you have 2 mana, and you automatically draw off the Bankbuster. That seems kind of cool. Maybe there's some other activated abilities that are worth it. Simulate Essence. If you're already running Essence Scatter in something, maybe consider this instead, because you can counter battle spells as well, unless they can pay 4, which is pretty steep, and you also get to Incubate, so that's not too bad. Change the equation, counterspell for red and green. Fairy Mastermind, 2 mana, 2/1 Flash Flyer. Could be okay with some upside, certainly in best of 3. Rona is okay. I mean, first off, the art on the backside is amazing. Like this thing is terrifying. So that by itself is pretty exciting. But yeah, the backside's not as threatening as I thought, because when you're this late in the game where someone's paying 5 or 6 to transform it, there aren't that many cards in hand. So often you can just deploy your hand, and then even if they have the Obliterator effect, there's nothing in your hand to exile at random. So that part's less scary. So yeah, this is probably more of a pass in general, although it's definitely cool. I like the card a lot. Chrome Host Seed Shark. I'm gonna move the camera again. Let's do it like this. The Seed Shark is okay in terms of like this type of play. I prefer the Third Path Iconoclast and Izzet, or the Monastery Mentor. I mean, you know, the original Sharknado card, the enchantment, was like way better because you didn't have to pay anything else. You just cast the thing and then you got the effect. Here you incubate X and then you still have to pay 2 to transform it. So I didn't see this card played, but I bet it's only so-so. C double seems absolutely sweet. And the cam's all messed up again. But I didn't play it, and Jin Kataxis seems more like a commander card. I don't think this will see a whole lot of play in the standard. Real quick through these, this seems cool, but it's a lot more expensive than Infernal Grasp or Growth for the Throat. If you can Convoke, that's great, but then you're tapping your creatures in mono black, and mono black actually does a pretty good job attacking here, so not so sure about this, even though it should be very good. Terror of Tawashi, no enter the battlefield effect. Archfiend of Shadows, like a better Terror of Tawashi. I think this could be fun. It's just every 5-drop in black competes with Invoke Despair. So I will probably try this out just for the heck of it, because it seems super fun, but it's going to be hard to compete with Invoke Despair. Sheldred, again, same issue. Competes with Invoke Despair, although I think it's sweet. You know, 5 mana, 4/5 Menace, has an enter the battlefield effect. Next turn, if they don't deal with it, you flip it. And then the problem is the flip is also an enchantment. So if they don't Invoke Despair that turn, they can Invoke Despair next turn and pick off the enchantment, which is sad. But yeah, I mean, the backside is amazing, and if you pull it off, you win that game. So I will definitely play mono black decks that don't run Invoke Despair and run this instead, just because I think it looks sweet, but it'd be tough to say if this actually is better. Invasion of Fiora, definitely looking forward to playing this card. It's just, yeah, I can't wait to play this card in like Esper Legends, destroy all non-legendary creatures, and then you flip it to Marchesa. Like, that seems like a great top end for Esper Legends. And then, yeah, lastly, all these cards I think are super fun and great flavor. I basically didn't play with any of them except Karizev, and they all look okay and are probably crazy fun to play, and none of them will be tier 1. I saw someone play Yargle and Multani. It was pretty epic. I got bashed over the head by Kogla one game. Yeah, this 6 mana 7/7 trample haste hurts like a mofo. And then, yeah, I didn't really see these played. So that's pretty much it. Had an awesome time. I thought battles were super cool. Probably my favorite games to play against were the Raptor, when the opponent was using the Raptor to pick off battles. I found that very exciting and novel to me. But yeah, overall, definitely get hyped for this set. I think it's going to shake things up a little bit. And yeah, if you want to see more content like this, you can drop a like, a subscribe, a comment, all that stuff. And if you want to see gameplay, you can check out my channel, Dr. Ruckus MTG, where I play a new deck every single day. That's it. Enjoy your day. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.